Hey everybody, welcome to our first flip video. Today we're going to go over our literary terms surrounding characterization. First, protagonist versus antagonist. A protagonist is the chief character in a work, such as Jean Louise Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, also referred to as Scout. Alright, an antagonist is the character directly opposed to the protagonist, a rival opponent or enemy of the protagonist, right? And so in To Kill a Mockingbird, the antagonist that would be opposing Scout would be Bob Ewell. Next, how writers reveal characters. Writers reveal a character's personality through characterization, and characterization may be indirect or direct. Okay? Direct and indirect characterization. Authors use two methods of characterization, both indirect and direct characterization. They will try to show or tell the readers about the characters. Direct characterization is a type of characterization where the author tells the reader exactly what the character is like, right? So when I was saying previously, the author is telling the readers explicitly what this character is like, right? And so in our example in green here, we have Fred was an angry man who hated children, right? That is very explicit, very straight and to the point. Here we have an example of direct characterization. An excerpt from The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. That winter, Robert Cohn went over to America with his novel, and it was accepted by a fairly good publisher. His going made an awful row, I heard, and I think that was where Frances lost him, because several women were nice to him in New York, and when he came back, he was quite changed. Notice that he was quite changed. He was more enthusiastic about America than ever, and he was not so simple, and he was not so nice, right? Explicitly saying he is no longer simple, no longer nice. The publishers had praised his novel pretty highly, and it went to his head. The several women had put themselves out to be nice to him, and his horizons had all shifted. Moving on to indirect characterization, the type of characterization where the reader must infer what a character is like from what the character does, says, or thinks, right? So the author is showing us what the character is going to be like, and we must infer what that means. When writers use indirect characterization, readers have to use their own judgment to decide what a character is like based on the evidence the writer gives us. When writers use indirect characterizations, readers must decide what the character is like based on a couple things here: the character's speech, his appearance, the character's private thoughts, the responses of other characters to this character's actions, and then the character's actions themselves. So a little acronym to help us with characterization is STEAL. It concerns speech, thoughts, effects on others towards the characters, actions, and looks. So here's an example of indirect characterization. Julie held up 6 different outfits in front of the mirror and pondered which would go best with her navy blue shoes, pastel eyeshadow, and the diamond earrings she'd already procured from her overflowing vanity. After 90 minutes of mixing and matching and cell-phoning her sister 3 times for advice, Julie finally made up her mind she'd give the navy blue skirt and white sweater a try, hoping Trent would love it. What can you infer about the type of character Julie is? So speech, like I said, we need to pay attention to what the characters say, the way the character speaks, tone of voice, dialect, volume, the words the character uses, slang, contractions, long, difficult words. So if you find a character using, say, a lot of formal English or formal language in informal settings, that will tell us a lot about that character. Maybe he thinks he's better than the other characters. Maybe he just doesn't know how to interact, and so on and so forth. Next, we have appearance. We pay attention to the way the character looks, the kinds of clothes the character wears. If a character is wearing a suit all the time, we might assume that that character has money. And then just the opposite of that, right? If we come across a character that is constantly in rags, it could indicate some type of poverty. Private thoughts, we need to always pay attention to what the character is saying and thinking to himself or herself about events and other characters, right? He or she may often cast judgment about other characters privately to themselves. The response of other characters, we'll look to see what other characters think about the character, what other characters say about that character, and how other characters act towards that character, right? So in our short story, Rip Van Winkle, Dame Van Winkle treats Rip with constant disrespect. This gives us a lot of insight to their relationship and what type of person Rip is and what type of person his wife is. The actions, we'll look to see what the character does, how the character does it, willingly, grudgingly, joyfully. Rip Van Winkle tends to love to entertain the children in his village, and this really kind of tells us, what type of character he is. Next, we move on to flat versus round characters. A flat character is a type of character who does not seem to have many different character traits and usually kind of stays the same, right? Is also a minor character often, right? And so an example of a flat character, we could look to the Disney story Cinderella. Cinderella's evil stepmother is a good example of flat character because she stays an evil person throughout the entire movie. Moving on to a round character, a character who, like a real person, has many different character traits, usually are complex and often go through changes, and some of them can be surprising. An example of this would be such as Harry Potter, right? And in the beginning of the stories, Harry Potter is a very meek, mild-mannered young boy, and he grows into being a very strong and fearless leader. Static character, a character who does not change much in the story, similar to flat character. And we can go back to Harry Potter, and Lord Voldemort would be a good example of a flat character who consistently stays evil throughout the duration of Harry Potter's stories. And finally, we have dynamic character, a type of character who goes through a noticeable change from the beginning to the end of the story. We can look to the Lord of the Rings movies here, or books if you like. Frodo Baggins in Lord of the Rings changes from a meek hobbit to one worthy of noble responsibility when he is charged with returning the ring to where it once came from. All right, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you need to watch it again, please do so. Thanks for your time. We'll see you guys tomorrow.